What is up, plant community? If you like my videos, go ahead and give me a like, share, and subscribe. It really helps me, and it helps the channel out. So, today, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the Silver Lady Tree Fern. I'm going to give how to care for it, and facts about it. So I'll start out with the care. The Silver Lady Tree Fern isn't one of those tree ferns like the Australian tree fern where you can put it out in direct sun and it'll be alright and it'll live and things like that. No. This guy is a dwarf variety of ferns. They prefer to be in dappled light or full shade. Sometimes even in dapple light like this, you can get a little bit of burning on the foliage. I actually have my guy over there underneath the rose bush, so he gets dappled light, as you can see. Nothing more, nothing a little harsher than that. Because again, if you stick them in direct sun, well, the results is going to be a very crispy brown fern. You can see we got some new fronds. The new fronds will start out yellow, sorry. They'll start out small and they'll expand to be a little bit bigger. Um, they're great for pot culture. Really excellent for pot culture, unlike most tree ferns. Actually, since they're great for pot culture, I don't see why they're not that popular, to be honest. Seems like they'd be very popular as maybe a patio type of plant or something like that. But yeah, they're not widely sold like that. Okay, had to kind of cut the video for a bit. Somebody was coming out on the front porch, so I came out to the back. Anyways, so like here, you can see a little bit of burn on the foliage. That's because it was adjusting to its newer environment where it simulates more of the wild, being underneath that rose bush. Um, so they do require a good amount of fertilization. Um, they like their soils moist, so always, if you can, try to keep their soil moist. Because if not, what you're going to have is a dead tree fern. In the summertime, you might be able to get away with letting them dry out a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend it. It could harm the health of the plant. You are way better off to keep the soil moist. They do require a lot of fertilizer. I have slow release fertilizer in it. Seems to work really well for this guy. He doesn't seem to be griping. So, they could take temps down to, I think when I Googled it, it said 26 degrees. Personally, I've had mine out here with snow on it, and it seems to be doing just fine. It's actually still growing, so honestly, I would doubt that. I've experimented with it, and here it is, still growing. Had some snow on it, still growing. Um, and that was a wet snow. So if you live in a place where you get more wet snow or anything like that, it'd be perfect. They also said that they could take frost. I wouldn't attempt it, honestly, especially being in a pot. I've never had mine take frost, and I don't think I'm going to attempt that type of fate. Uh, Not with this one. They are kind of a little bit more finicky than normal ferns. Well, besides Boston fern. I mean by that, your normal tree ferns. They do like to stay moist. If they're not moist, they gripe, basically. Alright, so the tree fern has been around ever since the prehistoric era, ever since the Jurassic time frame, and they were actually some of the first plants to arrive on land was ferns besides a form of moss. So that's a little interesting fact. Not a fun little fact like this is they get little veinings, which I ain't got none on my leaves. It's not mature enough yet. But they get little veins And those veins is where potential spores can form. I think they're sterile because I've never seen little spores, so I'm not sure if they're sterilized or not, which honestly for me sucks. I'd like to have more, but oh well. I don't know how they do it in cultivation, but maybe they do produce spores. Everything I've looked up said that they're sterile, so they get a nice little dwarf trunk on them. This will get a much bigger trunk, but and they'll look like a miniature version of an Australian tree fern, if that makes sense. You'll basically get the Australian tree fern vibe, but on a much smaller package, which to me is awesome. Other than that, that's really about it. Don't know if they would be toxic to animals, but I would keep it away from animals just to make sure, because I heard that can be kind of irritable, the little hairs there. It doesn't irritate me at all, but it might be an irritant to your animals or you. So if you do go to repot it or anything like that, and you find that you might have an allergic reaction to those hairs or something like that, you might want to put on gloves. Otherwise than that, that's really about it for the tree fern care of the silver lady tree fern. Let me be more specific about that. Otherwise than that, that's really about it. Nothing really too complicated. Keep it moist. Of course, indoors, you want to mist it. I missed mine in the wintertime when I was overwintering it. I misted it every day just to make sure it had the humidity and proper humidity it needed. I kept my room temperature. The room temperature was always 75 degrees or a little bit low into the 60s, but it was never too cold in there for it to not be able to survive. Um, which, again, if you don't have good heat or anything like that, it could take the cooler temps. It'll push through it just fine. Just don't expect for growth to be spontaneous. Don't expect it just to keep growing. It'll probably slow down its growth. But yeah, otherwise than that, they're real easy. Keep them by a bright window where they get a lot of sun. I kept mine by the north window. It did all right there. I kept it by a grow light. It did all right there. Full spectrum grow lights seem to do really good for these guys. Otherwise than that, that's really about it. Have a good day, guys.